Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Welcome to Lady Khadija Radiallahu Anha Online College. A-Level Maths Live Lesson, Pure Maths Year 2, following the EdXL Pearson syllabus. Today's topic is looking at the r cos theta plus alpha expression and working out the maximum value. So let's take a look at the cosine graph and just learn a basic principle before we go too much into the maths. We have the cosine graph starts around here and it'll go down and then bottom out and then come back up, and it's symmetrical, so it'll also do the same thing on this side. But the question is, what's that peak here and what's this minimum here? So the minimum and the peak, it's 1, positive 1 and minus 1, and that's with the cosine graph. And with the sine graph, it's the same type of shape, but it's just shifted a bit. So even for the sine graph, the maximum it'll ever reach is 1, and the minimum it will ever reach is minus 1. So let's try and apply that with also the knowledge that you've learned on being able to rewrite a long cosine and sine equation in the short form. So first question here is that function of theta is equal to 12 cosine theta plus 5 sine theta. And part A of this question is simply to rewrite this in the form r cos theta minus alpha. We've done a couple like this, so you should be comfortable being able to do that. But then the second part is, having done that, can you hence state the maximum value of the function f theta? So that's really where you're going to take advantage of the graph you've just seen, knowing that the cosine graph has a maximum at 1. So let's do the first part first. We've got to rewrite this long equation in the shorter form with just cosine appearing once. So let's expand this out and say, if I was to expand that out, well, based on my cos A minus B formula, then this would be cos A cos B plus sine A sine B. The A and the B are, in this case, theta and alpha, so let's replace the A's and the B's with theta and alpha. So it's cos theta cos alpha plus sine theta sine alpha. That's your standard cos A minus B formula. Here we've got also an r at the front, so we want to multiply, we want to make sure that stays in there, so the r gets multiplied through, so there'll be an r at the beginning of each of those two parts. So a slightly quicker way, but it's really the same technique that we've used before. Okay, now start to think of the next bit, which you should be familiar with now. You've done it a couple of times, trying to do the comparison. Have a think of what to compare with what. Okay, so let's do the comparison now. We've got two terms. We've got 12 cos theta and the second term is 5 sine theta. So if I just line it up, then what I'm saying is that the first term, the cos theta here matches the cos theta here. So anything else has to match. So the 12 has to match what's left here, which is the r times the cos alpha. So that's my first equation. I can say that 12 would be equal to r cos alpha. Have a look at the second part, see if you can figure out what matches and then what needs to match. Sine theta matches with sine theta, which means we've got the 5 left over here, which has to match the r times the sine alpha here. So let's use that to form the second equation. We can say that 5 is equal to r sine alpha. Can you guess the next bit? We've got two equations. We need to do the little trick here, which helps us solve them. The trick is to just put the sine one on top and the cos one underneath. Why? Because when we divide sine by cos, then you'll end up with tan. So we're dividing both equations. The sine over the cos will end up with tan, but more than that, the r will cancel out. So you're just left with tan alpha on the right-hand side. So this becomes just tan alpha, and you need one equal sign. Tan alpha is equal to 5 over 12. Well, that's easy. You can just type that into a calculator, inverse tan 5 over 12, and you'll figure out what alpha is. Alpha is equal to 22.6. And then to get what r is, we can put it back into any of those two equations that we had. We had r for the first, on the left-hand side, we had 12 is equal to r cos alpha. Well, we know what alpha is now. So we can put the alpha into there and say cos 22.6. Just rearrange that for r. Let me just rearrange that for r. So take the cos alpha across. So r is equal to 12 over cos alpha. Type that into your calculator using alpha is 22.6, and that gives you, I'll just give you a second to do that. Okay, hopefully you've done that by now, and that will give you 13, simply 13. There is another way of working out the r, which I've shown you in another video, but I just thought I'll do it a different way today. So that's a common way of doing it. Okay, so we figured out what r is, we figured out what alpha is. So just to finish it off, what is the form that this original function 12 cos theta plus 5 sine theta can take? It would be 13 cos theta minus 22.6. Okay, now to answer part B, state the maximum value of f theta. So before I showed you that just cos on its own, cos of theta or cos of x, the maximum value of cos is equal to 1. So cos of theta, the maximum value would be 1. Well, this has got some brackets in it. It's got minus 22.6, and that's a shift to the right or the left. So that doesn't affect the maximum value. So the maximum value of just the theta of cos and then theta minus 22.6. It could be plus or minus anything. It doesn't matter because you're just shifting the graph right or left. So the maximum is still 1. And then you look at the 13. Okay, the 13 does make a difference. The 13 is really 13 times. So if the maximum value for normal cosine is 1, then when I do 13 times cos of any angle, then the maximum is now 13 times 1, which is just 13. So that's the answer for the maximum value, is just 13. Okay, join me for more next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace be with you and the mercy and blessings of God.